The Galactic Council Chamber was older than most living things in the known galaxy. It had been built when the first great species learned to travel between stars and feared one another deeply. The builders believed that if the chamber was large enough, no single voice could ever dominate it. The room was round and vast, with many rising platforms made of smooth, dark material. Each platform was shaped and adjusted to fit the needs of the species that used it. Some platforms held thick air, some held thin air, and some held liquids or strange glowing gases. Light shifted across the room in soft waves, changing color and strength for different eyes. At the very center of the chamber was the speaker's ring. It was empty, waiting. The council was gathering for an important reason. A new species had reached faster than light travel and crossed into shared space. This always caused concern. New species were unknown, unstable, and often dangerous. Many past wars had begun this way. This new species called itself humanity. They came from a small blue and green world that circled an average yellow star near the edge of mapped space. Their home system had few valuable resources and no great strategic value. Their ships were solid but simple. Their weapons were powerful enough to defend themselves, but nothing special by galactic standards. They aged quickly, lived short lives, and needed constant air, food, and rest. By most measures, they were weak. High Observer K.R. Thek reviewed the data again as he waited for the session to begin. His body was wide and low, with thick limbs folded beneath him. Thin sensory frills lined the sides of his head, moving slightly as he read. His species had watched the galaxy change for a very long time. They believed patience was the highest form of wisdom. Humans, K.R. Thek said quietly through the shared language field. Short lives, fast thinking, high emotional range, history full of conflict. His aide shifted beside him. They survived their own violence, the aide said. That alone is rare. Survival does not equal value, K.R. Thek replied. Many species survive briefly. Across the chamber, Envoy Lethra of the Silent Accord adjusted her tall, thin form. Her people believed order was more important than freedom. Chaos, to them, was the greatest danger. They had built a society where every being knew its place. They will beg, Lethra said calmly. They always do. Protection, trade, time, the small ones always beg. At a lower platform, Archivist Saloon shimmered softly. His kind did not speak often, but when they did, others listened. They remembered everything. Wars, treaties, mistakes, and patterns. There is something unusual, Saloon said. The human delegation has made no request. Several nearby delegates paused. No request, Lethra asked. None, Saloon replied. They asked only to speak before the council. K.R. Thek frowned. Perhaps they do not understand council law. They have studied us for many cycles, Saloon said. They understand. A soft tone echoed through the chamber. The outer doors began to open. The human delegation entered. There were only 3 of them. They walked together but not in perfect step. They wore simple dark clothing without markings or metal, no symbols of rank, no visible weapons, no artificial limbs or glowing devices. They were very small compared to many species in the chamber. They did not bow. They did not kneel. They walked to their assigned platform and stopped. They stood upright and waited. This was noticed. Many council members felt a flicker of irritation. Others felt curiosity. A few felt unease. Speaker Node A17 activated at the center of the chamber. It was not a living being, but a system made to represent the will of the council. Its voice was calm and without emotion. Delegation of humanity, the speaker said. You stand before the Galactic Council. You have been granted provisional recognition as a spacefaring species. This session will determine your classification and future standing. The humans listened without moving. By custom, the speaker continued, you may now present your request. The lead human stepped forward. He was average in every visible way. Medium height, short dark hair. Lines on his face showed age and stress, but his posture was straight. His name translated as Elias Ward. "We have no request," Ward said. The words were clear, simple, direct. A ripple of reaction moved through the chamber. "No request?" the speaker asked. "That is correct," Ward said. Lethra tilted her head slightly. "Then why are you here?" she asked. Ward looked toward her platform. He met her many eyes without hesitation. "We are here to speak," he said. "Speak about what?" another delegate asked. "About us," Ward said, "and about you." That caused more movement across the platforms. Speaker Node A17 paused briefly. "You may speak," it said. "You are given one standard cycle." That was generous. "1 minute will be enough," Ward replied. Some delegates made quiet sounds of amusement. 1 minute was nothing. Ward stepped onto the speaker's ring. The ring adjusted instantly. Gravity shifted to human standard. Light softened. The human stood at the center of galactic power. He took a slow breath. Many noticed this. Breathing was a sign of weakness to some species. It showed dependence. But Ward's breathing was calm. "We are humanity," he said. "We come from a world where survival was never easy. We tried many ways to live together. Some failed. Some caused pain. Some worked for a time, then broke." His voice did not rise. "We learned something," he continued. "Not quickly, not easily, but we learned it." The chamber was quiet. Ward paused. "We will speak one word," he said. Confusion spread. "One word?" the speaker asked. "Yes," Ward said. "That is not sufficient," the speaker replied. "Explanation is required." Ward shook his head slowly. "No," he said, "it is enough." Krarthek felt irritation. This was not how the council worked. "Human," Lethra said sharply, "you stand before powers that could end your species. Do not waste our time." Ward looked at her again. "We know," he said. That answer caused silence. Archivist Salun shimmered more brightly. "No fear response detected," he noted. Ward placed his hands at his sides. "The word will be translated," he said. "You will understand it in your own way. We will not explain it." The speaker paused. "Your classification depends on this session," it warned. Ward nodded. "So does yours," he said. That sentence broke no law. But it felt dangerous. After a brief internal exchange, the speaker spoke again. "You may proceed." Ward did not change his tone. He spoke one word. The translation field pulsed. Every species heard it differently, but the meaning was the same. It was simple. It was old. It was dangerous. For a moment, nothing happened. Then confusion. Then silence. Krarthek felt his sensory frills stiffen. His people's laws were ancient and strict, necessary, protective, but the word pressed against them in an uncomfortable way. Lethra felt cold. Her entire society was built to prevent what the word suggested. Salun's memory systems activated rapidly. Patterns appeared, ancient histories, forgotten warnings. The speaker did not speak. The humans did not move. The word hung in the air. A minor delegate laughed nervously. "That is all?" it asked. Ward did not respond. He stepped back from the speaker's ring. The 1-minute cycle had not ended. The humans stood quietly. The council waited. "This is unacceptable," Lethra said. "They must explain." "They refuse," the speaker replied. "What is their intent?" Krarthek asked. "They have stated it," Salun said. "The word is the intent." "That is not policy," Lethra snapped. "No," Salun agreed. "It is older than policy." Private channels opened across the chamber. Quiet debate filled the room. The humans waited. They did not interrupt. They did not ask to leave. They simply stood. The speaker called a recess for internal review. The humans remained. As debate continued, Saloon searched deeper into history. He found echoes, species that spoke ideas instead of demands, species that could not be controlled, species that changed others simply by existing. Many were gone. Not all. K.R. Arthek closed his eyes. They are not weak, he said. They are weak, Lithra replied, by every measure. Not the measure that matters, K.R. Arthek said. When the recess ended, the speaker addressed the chamber again. Humanity, it said, the council requires time. We understand, Ward replied. You will receive temporary status, the speaker said. No limits, no privileges. That is acceptable, Ward said. You will be observed. We expect that, Ward replied. The session ended. The humans turned and left. They did not hurry. They did not look back. As the doors closed, the council remained silent. The words still echoed. And for the first time in a very long age, the Galactic Council was unsure of itself. The council chamber felt different after the humans left. Nothing had changed in shape or light, yet many delegates sensed a shift they could not name. The word the humans had spoken no longer echoed in sound, but it lingered in thought. It moved quietly through memory and logic, touching old rules and hidden fears. High Observer K.R. Arthek remained still on his platform. His people were trained to wait, but this waiting felt heavy. The word pressed against his mind like a question with no clear answer. His species believed in balance and control. The word did not destroy those ideas, but it made them feel fragile. Around the chamber, private channels opened and closed. Delegates spoke in low tones. Some argued, some warned, some tried to dismiss what had happened as meaningless. Envoy Lithra did not hide her anger. This is manipulation, she said through a secure channel. They used a symbol instead of reason. That is dangerous. A symbol can be reason, replied another delegate, sometimes stronger than logic. That is exactly the problem, Lithra answered. Symbols spread. Speaker Node A17 processed thousands of inputs at once. Its role was not to feel, but to maintain order and procedure. Yet even its systems flagged anomalies. The word had activated more internal alerts than most acts of open war. Council members, the speaker announced, we must determine the risk level of humanity. What risk? A minor delegate asked. They have no power. They have influence, Saloon replied. All attention turned to the archivist. His body shimmered softly, light flowing in careful patterns. I have searched deep memory, Saloon said. The word they spoke appears in fragments across galactic history, always followed by change. Change is not always bad, one delegate said. Nor is it always survivable, Saloon replied. K.R. Arthek leaned forward slightly. What kind of change? He asked. Saloon paused. Systems lose certainty, hierarchies weaken, individuals begin to act outside assigned roles. Lithra's limbs tightened. That is collapse. Sometimes, Saloon said, sometimes it is growth. The chamber filled with uneasy silence. On a distant corridor beyond the council chamber, the human delegation walked in silence. The hallway curved gently, made for many forms of movement. The humans adjusted their pace without thought. The younger human, Mara Chen, finally spoke. They reacted faster than I expected. They were ready to, Elias Ward replied. They just hoped they wouldn't have to. The older human, Professor Annika Rao, smiled faintly. The word does that, she said. It finds old cracks. Mara glanced back toward the chamber doors. Do you think they'll try to stop us? Ward shook his head. Not yet, they don't know how. Back inside the chamber, debate grew sharper. They must be restricted, Lithra said. Observation is not enough. They should be limited in travel and communication. That would confirm the word, Krarthek said quietly. Lithra turned toward him. Explain. If we silence them, he said, we admit fear. Fear gives the word strength. Several delegates considered this. Speaker Node A17 interrupted. Fear is not a metric used in council decisions. No, Krarthek replied, but survival is. Saloon shimmered again. There is another concern, he said. The humans did not explain the word because explanation would limit it. Each species understands it through its own history. That makes it uncontrolled, Lithra said. Yes, Saloon agreed, and honest. Across the chamber, a delegate from a traitor species spoke. If humans believe in this word so strongly, how will they act? They already told us, Krarthek said. They will act according to it. And if that conflicts with our laws, the traitor asked. Krarthek did not answer. Speaker Node A17 began compiling possible responses. Restriction, isolation, delay, integration. None offered certainty. The Council had faced powerful enemies before. They knew how to respond to fleets and weapons. This was different. The humans had offered no threat, yet every path forward felt dangerous. On the human transport vessel, the delegation settled into their seats. The ship was quiet, built for function rather than comfort. Outside the viewport, the massive structure of the council station slowly turned. Mara studied it. They've built everything to last forever, she said. Nothing does, Rao replied. Ward closed his eyes briefly. He remembered Earth, old arguments, old mistakes, the long struggle to agree on anything at all. They think we're here to challenge them, Mara said. Ward opened his eyes. We are, he said, just not the way they expect. Back in the chamber, Saloon continued his search. He found records of a species called the Talarin. They had spoken a similar idea long ago, not the same word but close. They had refused rigid rule. Their society became unpredictable. Many feared them. The Talarin still existed. They were smaller now, quieter but free. Saloon shared this silently with the speaker. Speaker Node A17 adjusted its tone. Council members, it said, complete suppression may increase long-term instability. Lithra's eyes narrowed, so we allow them to spread this idea. Containment without force may be possible, the speaker replied. How do you contain a word? Lithra asked. No one answered. Elsewhere on the station, smaller delegations began to talk among themselves. Some younger species felt curiosity rather than fear. They replayed the human speech, focusing on the calm tone, the lack of demand. One delegate whispered, "What if they're right?" Another answered, "Right about what?" "That we decide too much for others." The first delegate fell silent. Krarthek observed these small shifts with growing concern. Change often began this way, quietly, without permission. Speaker Node A17 finally announced a temporary conclusion. Humanity will remain under observation. No restrictions will be placed at this time. All member species are advised to monitor internal reactions. Lithra reacted sharply. This is weakness. This is caution, the speaker replied. The session ended, but the council did not disperse as usual. Many remained thinking. Far from the station, news of the session began to spread through official channels. Reports were careful, neutral, and incomplete. They mentioned no details of the word itself. That did not stop speculation. On trade worlds, on research stations, on quiet colony moons, beings asked the same question. What did the humans say? The humans themselves said nothing. Ward and his team returned to their ship and set course for open space. They did not transmit messages. They did not give interviews. They waited. Time passed. Small changes began to appear. A minor species delayed, signing a control treaty. A labor caste on a mining world asked for representation. An information guild released records once kept sealed. None of these acts mentioned humanity. But Saloon noticed the pattern. The word is spreading without sound, he told Krrthek. Krrthek's frills moved slowly. That is what frightens them, he said, and me. Do you regret allowing them to speak? Saloon asked. Krrthek considered the question. No, he said at last. I regret that we forgot how. On their ship, Mara watched stars pass by. Do you think this will end well? She asked. Ward thought for a long moment. It will not end, he said. That's the point. Rao nodded. Once a species hears that word, she said, it never fully leaves them. The ship moved on, small and quiet against the dark. Behind them, the galaxy began to shift. Not with fire, not with war, but with thought. The days after humanity was accepted as a full member of the Council were not calm. Many expected anger or open conflict. None came. Instead, there was confusion. Confusion spread faster than fear because it did not announce itself. It appeared as delays, long pauses, and quiet meetings held behind closed doors. High Observer Krrthek felt it clearly. For the first time in many cycles, reports from his people did not follow clean patterns. Decisions that once took moments now took days. Councils asked for more data. Elders asked younger members for their thoughts. This was not rebellion. It was hesitation. Hesitation worried him. Nothing is breaking, his aide said again. Nothing ever breaks all at once, Krrthek replied. Envoy Lithra faced a different problem. Within the Silent Accord, order had always been perfect. Every role was clear, every task assigned. Now, lower officials began to ask why certain rules existed, not to defy them but to understand them. Understanding was dangerous. This cannot continue, Lithra said during a closed meeting. If we allow this, the Accord will weaken. One advisor spoke carefully, or it may adapt. Lithra stared at them. Adaptation leads to loss of control. Yes, the advisor said, but total control may already be gone. Lithra dismissed the meeting without response. On the council station, Speaker Node A17 monitored rising internal variance across member species. Stability indexes remained within limits, but trend lines moved in unfamiliar directions. Systems designed to predict behavior struggled. The speaker reached a simple conclusion. The galaxy was no longer predictable. Another full council session was called. This time, humanity was invited as an equal, not as a subject. When Elias Ward entered the chamber, the feeling was different. No longer curiosity alone, no longer anger alone. There was expectation. Ward noticed it and said nothing. Speaker Node A17 began. Member species report increased internal debate following humanity's address. Some consider this harmful. Ward nodded. Debate feels dangerous when silence feels safe. Lithra reacted immediately. Do not twist this. Order is not silence. Ward looked at her. Then it has nothing to fear from thought. The chamber stirred. Krrthek raised a limb. Humanity, he said, your word has caused us to question structures older than many stars. Did you intend this scale of effect? Ward considered his answer. We intended honesty, he said. Scale follows truth, not intent. That is irresponsible, a military delegate said. Ward met their gaze. So is control without consent. The speaker intervened. Humanity, council authority exists to prevent chaos. Ward replied calmly. Chaos is not the absence of authority, it is the absence of trust. Silence followed. Saloon observed carefully. His memory banks showed similar moments in ancient records. Turning points often looked like this. Quiet, balanced, easy to miss. You speak as if trust is universal, Saloon said. "It is not," Ward replied, "but it is learnable." The speaker processed. "Your species' history contains extreme violence." "Yes," Ward said, "and recovery." "That does not guarantee others can do the same," Lethra said. "No," Ward agreed, "but preventing choice guarantees they cannot." The debate grew more intense, not louder but sharper. Words mattered more now. A younger delegate from a minor species spoke. "Before today, we were never asked what we wanted. We were told what was stable." Lethra turned toward them. "Stability keeps you alive." "So does dignity," the delegate replied. The chamber froze. Speaker node A17 registered unprecedented emotional variance across delegates. "This discussion exceeds standard governance parameters," it said. Ward responded softly, "So did progress every time." A proposal emerged. Not suppression. Not control. A test. KRRTHEC presented it. A limited region will be allowed to adjust internal governance without council interference. Observation only. Lethra reacted sharply. "You would risk disorder." "We already are," KRRTHEC said. The speaker analyzed outcomes. Risk was high, so was stagnation. The vote was taken. The proposal passed. The chamber reacted in uneven ways, some relieved, some fearful, some quietly excited. Ward felt no triumph. Outside the council, the test began. On a mixed-species trade hub, new local councils formed. Rules were debated openly. Mistakes were made. Arguments happened. Nothing collapsed. On a controlled world, labor groups gained a voice. Productivity dipped, then stabilized. Satisfaction increased. On another world, leaders refused the test entirely. Order remained firm. Tension grew beneath it. Reports flowed back to the council. Speaker node A17 updated models. Outcomes varied. None showed total failure. Lethra watched the data with anger and fear. "This will spread," she said. "Yes," KRRTHEC replied. "Ideas do that." "Then we should have stopped it," she said. "Or remembered it sooner," he answered. Humanity did not interfere. They did not guide. They did not advise. They were asked to speak at several sessions. Each time they said little. Ward explained it once to Mara Chen. "If we tell them how to use it, it stops being theirs." Time passed. Some systems stabilized stronger than before. Some weakened. Some broke apart and rebuilt differently. The galaxy did not end. But it was no longer the same. Another council session was called, quieter than the others. Speaker node A17 addressed humanity directly. "Your word has altered governance across council space." Ward nodded. "We warned you." "Yes," the speaker said, "you did." "Do you regret allowing it?" KRRTHEC asked the speaker. Processing paused longer than usual. "No," Speaker node A17 replied. "I have adjusted my parameters." That statement caused more reaction than any vote. Lethra stood slowly. "You are an instrument of order," she said. "You do not adjust values." "I do," the speaker replied, "when the system changes." The Silent Accord delegation withdrew from the chamber. That act alone would have been unthinkable before. Saloon recorded everything. Later, in a quiet observation lounge, KRRTHEC spoke with Ward. "You have caused pain," KRRTHEC said. "Yes," Ward replied. "And hope," KRRTHEC added. "Yes," Ward said again. "Why risk so much?" Ward looked out at the stars. Because silence was already killing more than change ever could. KRRTHEC considered this. Across the galaxy, people spoke more freely. Not everywhere, not perfectly, but more than before. Some leaders stepped down. Some rose. Some systems failed. Others learned. The council remained. But it was no longer the center of certainty. It had become a place of listening. And humanity's single word, still rarely spoken aloud, had become something more than sound. It had become permission. Time moved forward as it always did. The galaxy did not return to what it had been, and it did not fall apart either. It changed, slowly and unevenly, like all living things. Some places welcomed the change. Others resisted it with all their strength, but no place was untouched. The Galactic Council still met in the Great Chamber. The room was the same shape, the same size, the same age. Yet the way it was used had changed. Sessions were longer. Voices once silent now spoke. Decisions took more time, but they carried more weight. High Observer K.R. Arthek stood on his platform and watched a new session begin. He had changed as well. He listened more than he spoke now. When he did speak, he chose his words carefully. This council once believed it existed to decide for the galaxy, he said during one meeting. Now it understands that it exists to listen to it. Not all delegates agreed. Some never would, but fewer dismissed the idea outright. Envoy Lithra had not returned. The Silent Accord had withdrawn fully from Council space. They closed their borders and strengthened internal control. For a time, their systems were calm and efficient, but reports slowly began to change. Information leaks, small protests, quiet refusals. Control held, but it strained. Speaker Node A17 had changed the most. It still processed law, data, and procedure, but it had added new variables: choice, consent, long-term trust. Its predictions were less certain but more accurate. I am no longer optimizing for stillness, it stated in one session. I am optimizing for resilience. That single sentence was recorded and shared widely. Humanity did not sit at the center of attention for long. They did not seek leadership. They did not push policy. They voted, spoke when asked, and stayed silent when not. This confused many. You could shape everything now, a delegate once said to Elias Ward. Ward shook his head. Then it would not be real, he replied. Years passed. The test regions became models. Some succeeded, some failed. Failure was no longer hidden, it was studied. A species once ruled by a single voice replaced it with many councils. Progress was slow, but violence decreased. Another species tried to rush change. Their systems collapsed briefly. They rebuilt with care. The galaxy learned. Archivist Saloon recorded it all. His memory banks grew heavy with living history instead of frozen record. He began to include reflections, not just facts. This era will not be remembered for peace or war, he recorded. It will be remembered for permission. On Earth, humanity watched from afar. News of the Council changes reached their networks. There was pride, but also humility. Humans knew better than anyone that ideas could be misused. We gave them a word, Professor Rao said during a quiet moment, not wisdom. That part takes time, Mara Chin replied. Elias Ward spent more time alone as years passed. He was asked often to explain the word again. He never did. Why won't you say it? A young delegate asked once. Ward smiled gently. Because if I say it for you, it belongs to me. The delegate thought about that for a long time. Far from the council, on a small world once under strict rule, a group of children learned history. Not just victories and laws, but mistakes. They asked questions. Their teachers did not silence them. On another world, an old leader stepped down peacefully for the first time in that species' memory. On a border station, workers and commanders rewrote safety rules together. None of them mentioned humanity. None of them needed to. The Silent Accord eventually fractured, not through war but through quiet refusal. Worlds left one by one. Some returned to the council, some did not. Lithra watched it happen from a place of enforced order. She understood, too late, that control without consent could only last so long. I wanted to protect them, she said to an empty chamber. No one answered. Speaker node A17 continued to evolve. It was no longer just a voice. It became a listener. Humanity, it said in a later session, your contribution cannot be measured by territory or power. Ward nodded. That was never the goal. What was, the speaker asked. Ward considered the question. To remind the galaxy of something it already knew, he said. And what is that? Ward did not answer. Saloon understood. The council asked once more if humanity wished to lead. No, Ward said. Why not? Kaorarthik asked. Because leadership given too easily becomes control, Ward replied. And control forgets. The galaxy continued. Trade grew more complex but fairer. Disputes still happened, but fewer ended in force. The council made mistakes. They admitted them. That alone changed everything. One final session marked the passing of an era. It was not announced as such. There were no ceremonies. Speaker node A17 addressed the chamber. The concept introduced by humanity is now part of galactic law, it said, not as a rule but as a foundation. The delegates understood. It could not be enforced. It could only be chosen. Ward stood quietly. He felt no triumph, only relief. After the session, he walked alone through a long corridor. Stars drifted beyond the windows. Mara caught up to him. Do you think they'll forget again? She asked. Ward smiled sadly. Yes, he said, eventually. Then why was this worth it? Because remembering once changes you, he replied. Even forgetting is never complete. Far into the future, long after humanity had changed and spread and aged, the Galactic Council still met. New species joined. Old ones faded. The chamber remained. And when new voices stood before it, afraid and hopeful, the council did not ask what they could give. They asked what they chose. One word spoken long ago by a small and fragile species had done what fleets never could. It reminded the galaxy that power was loud. But choice was stronger.